Behold, only the spiciest melee combos do I have for you today. You can flip into groups of enemies with surprising speed and agility, using secret techniques unbeknownst to most Tenno. Stance mod. One of the most underappreciated aspects of making a good melee build is understanding the stances at your disposal. Let me give a recent example. The Jatkisar is a relatively new blade and whip weapon with a very, very high critical chance and multiplier. However, it has very low status chance, and Conditioned Overload is currently a very popular way to boost your weapon's damage. A lot of people looked at this weapon and said 5% status chance looks like no on Conditioned Overload, but in fact, it's not so far-fetched because Defiled Snapdragon, a combo that inflicts a guaranteed slash proc. As you spin it around, you will see there's that slash proc, and an impact proc. Mysterious, considering this weapon has 5% status chance and no physical damage types. Well, that's because one of the combos, the block combo specifically, inflicts a slash and impact proc. So, knowing that, you now know that Condition Overload is indeed viable on this weapon because you will be inflicting statuses very reliably, all in the stance mod. You have to keep that in mind. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to perform combos and like some of the spicier stances, and feel free, please, go in the comments and share your spiciest stance combos that people don't know about, that people don't appreciate. I myself have missed a lot of these in the past, and it's really fun to hear the ones people have found that other people just don't pay enough attention to or whatever. Share your stance things in the comments. Go in the comments to check out a bunch of crazy stance combos. So let's start with the Ninkandi from earlier. I showed you a crazy flippy stuff combo. Now, for me, combos were bugged out for a while, but they're finally back, so I can at last show you in-game where the combos are. I'm going to show you. It's very easy to do. All you have to do is right out of the gate, hold down the button, and you will flip, and then do this like push forward. Now that's all in one direction. I just turned around so I didn't fall off. So if you're in an open area, you're going to hold right out of the gate and then spam, and you'll do this. Now think about that really fast. That's a lot of hits. That's a whole lot of hits. Let's get to some footage real quick if you know what I'm saying. So we're going to flip in and then, ooh, look at all those hits. That's spicy. Let's do that again. Ooh, look at that. Chunky. And it just completely mows through these level 100 dudes. You get so many opportunities to proc that corrosive that you get from that innate electricity damage. Anyway, very, very good. So again, these combos are also going to be good themselves in context. Like, it depends on what the weapon is, whether or not it, like, matters that you inflict a guaranteed slash and impact proc, or, like, whether it matters that you hit a ton of times. Like, if this weapon didn't have good status chance, maybe that wouldn't matter so much. How about we take a look at a famous one? Galantine Prime, a weapon I'm sure lots of you are familiar with, has two very good stances that it has access to right out of the gate with no forma. Tempo Royale and Cleaving Whirlwind. Now, again, I'm getting all this information from the wiki, but like also kind of from trial and error. These stances are very, very different, and if you look them up, you'll know that Cleaving Whirlwind is a combo that gives you a 3 times damage multiplier. A very famous combo called the Broken Bull combo. What you need to do is swing twice and then pause, and then you see a whole lot of E's there. You're going to want to not hit E that many times, because if you do it all that many times, then you will stagger at the end. But all of those hits get 300% damage. It's crazy. Against these poor suckers again. So we'll swing twice, and then pause very briefly, and then you see we start to spin, 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 and then stop. I didn't stop. Okay, if you spin too many times, you're going to stagger yourself. However, you see it does pretty nuts damage, pretty high damage against enemies without their armor reduced, you know, except by your own corrosive procs. It's pretty high damage. Very, very spicy. So if you can heal the enemies together in one place, you're going to be able to do crazy damage by spinning to win right through them. Now, if you didn't know that and instead looked at Tempo Royale and said, oh, well, this stance has lots of combos that give you tons of movement and really good cleave and a knockdown. I like that much better. This looks cool, and I'm not looking at my damage numbers that much, so I like this a lot better. Well, then you might miss out on Cleaving Whirlwind's really, really crazy damage. Now, don't get me wrong, Tempo Royale is great. I kind of prefer it overall myself, but you want to be aware of like the pros and cons of the stances. It's not just about how the cleave of the abilities feels and like where they're positioned and all that stuff, although that is a factor. You also need to know like if they have any special conditions. Do they stagger the enemy? Do they inflict a status proc, like a forced proc? Do they have a damage multiplier? Some abilities have really weird damage multipliers. So, stuff like that. And again, you can find all of that out on the wiki. With rapiers, Vulpine Mask has tons of bleed, so even though it doesn't look like you would inflict a lot of slash procs, you actually do. This weapon is pure puncture and has terrible status chance, and yet if you jump in, you'll notice that with each full combo, you do a propensity of slash pro. Well, that's quite a variety of slash procs, considering no slash damage and no status. Perhaps you'd consider running something like Relentless Combination on this weapon, since you get so many slash procs from it as you're fighting. You'll be able to whittle down heavier targets really hard. I think you get the point by now. You gotta look up on the wiki and find out what your stance combos do. Find out what you have access to, which ones are easy and intuitive to perform, are reasonably easy to hit enemies with, and have special conditions that might make them stronger in unexpected ways. Now, there is one more category of powerful stance thing, and that's sometimes where it hits the enemy, or like the way the hitbox is positioned. Mostly, I use the Atterax as a spin-to-win weapon. You all know what this weapon's about, right? If not, I've got a video dedicated to it in the description. Go watch that. But Burning Wasp is a pretty simple stance. Not a very exciting stance. No particularly crazy combos. It's a whip stance, and you mostly just spin with this thing, so it's not a big deal, but it is worth noting that it has an interesting combo. So with the basic button mash combo, swing, swing, and then you get an overhead swing. That overhead swing can hit headshots. I didn't even really remember that melee weapons could hit headshots when I found out about this weapon, but like, right there, like that's, with any luck, if the enemy doesn't block it with their hand, that's a headshot. So it's worth noting, like, you can get headshots with this weapon. There's a pretty cool video by a fellow YouTuber of mine who noted that you can trigger Harrow's abilities that require you to get headshots, like with melee weapons, like by slide attacking and stuff with whips. It's pretty spicy, so check that out in the description. That's one of the reasons I thought to show this, so I want to give credit where credit is due. It's a really funny thing that it's sort of easy to forget that you can do that. But yeah, I mean, melee weapons can get headshots, and so, you know, so like, just looking at the way that this swings, you can say like, oh, well, that's better just because like it hits near the enemy's head. Like, normally it's not going to be too easy to hit a head with a melee weapon, but this is relatively precise, right? Now, for a parting gift, the Harrow. This is a glorious pair of automatic life-stealing fist weapons that are super fun to use. And sparring weapons have some interesting stances. We have Brutal Tide and a glorious stance called Grim Fury. Now, Grim Fury allows you to punch really, really rapidly, very fast, which makes it a lot of people's favorite. I personally like Brutal Tide's sort of breakdancey thing, but I like to have both, and you actually can have both. You're going to need to equip another weapon, such as your newly formed lens, alongside your melee, and then you have a difference between having the melee as your active weapon and doing attacks with your stance, and having the melee as your quick melee weapon. Some melee weapons will have a drastic difference between what their quick melee is and what their active sort of stance combo is, allowing you to do both a certain type of like heavy hitting, good cleave thing like that, and also being able to, you know, have your other weapon out and just friggin' punch people really fast. So as you can see, I can go ahead and dive into these guys while they're all grouped up and get some nice cleave with my swingy, spinny, breakdancey stuff. And once my berserker and everything is, my combo counter is sped up, I can just switch off it. And I can't see my combo counter, but I know it's up. I can just punch real fast, start punching everyone very, very quickly, extremely quickly, if I would prefer that. If I want some single target damage, right? This is definitely better single target, but it's not very effective against a group. So do whichever one suits the situation. All you gotta do is swap off or on it as your active weapon. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that this was an enlightening, educational, helpful version of stances as a concept, a glorious introduction to one of the most fun things about building melee weapons in Warframe. Please let me know if you have any new player type of questions or veteran type of questions, and again, post your favorite weird stance combos that nobody uses in the comments. I'm super excited to see what you all come up with. So, I'll see you all next time for more tutorial goodness, or spicy builds, or whatever else. Goodbye!